We are on Tesvavim Beis at second of the medium line of the medium lines. Reb Nosson Eimer. So we're trying to identify which generation Eiv lived in. So he said, this opinion is Eiv of the king of Shva. Second. Shenemar, as the verse states, Vatipol Shva, the Shva reference to Eiv is the king of Shva, Vatikachem, and he took them. Okay, second. Yeah, the king of Shva lived at the time of Shlomo Melech, of King Solomon. This is okay, the king of Sheba, who interacted a lot. The queen of Sheba actually interacted a lot with Shlomo Melech. Remember, the rabbis say Eiv lived at the time of the Kasdim. Second. At the time of Nebuchadnezzar, the general, the time of the general destroyed the temple. Shenera Kasdim Kasdim Samu Shloisha Roshim. The Kasdim were involved in the story. They took three. They had three divisions of camels. The Yeshayim, some say Eiv b'mei Yaakov haya. Eiv lived at the time of Yaakov Vinu. Vidina bas Yaakov Nasa, and Eiv ended up marrying the daughter of Yaakov. Sivhacha Kidabar Achas Hanafolos Tidabri. Where Eiv asks somebody who comes to him if that if one of the nevolas happened, a nevola meaning something that was inappropriate happened, then she should say it. Uchsiv Hasam, and the verse by Dina says Ki nevola Asav Yisrael, that there was a nevola, an inappropriate act that occurred with Dina. The Kul Tanoi Svir Lahu the Eiv Yisrael Hava. Everyone holds that Eiv was a Jew, Labar, except for the opinion of Yesh Shomrim. From one opinion, another opinion. These side that my Umas Olam Hava. Basar the Shachav Moshe Mishar Yishchina al Chavim. In order for the story of Eiv to have occurred with Eiv being a non-Jew, then the story would need to have occurred before Moshe, because after Moshe Rabbeinu's passing, God did not rest His presence on a non-Jew. Moshe Rabbeinu prayed to God that a non-Jew should not have a godly revelation. Shneimar, as the verse states, "V'niflinu aniva amecha." That me and my people, meaning Moshe Rabbeinu and the Jewish people, should be different, and they should be the only ones that have prophecy. And God granted His request. Okay, so it's only possible for Eiv to have been a non-Jew if he lived before the period of Moshe. The generation of Eiv was filled with immorality, adultery. Shenemar, as the verse states, Hein atem kulchem chazitem. All of you, you're all seers. I presume that this is sort of a reference to voyeurism. You're all gazing. And why are you looking in such a false manner? Okay. In the verse states, Shuvi Shuvi Hashulamis, Shuvi Shuvi V'nech. So the word chayza means a number of things. First of all, by the way, chayza often means prophecy. We'll get to it in a moment. But over here, chayz is being translated as seeing is translated as a euphemism for intimacy. As we find when the nations of the world try to seduce the Jewish people, they say shuvi shalamis. They seduce the Jewish people to come to them. Shuvi v'nechsabach, and we'll intermarry with you. Okay, so you see that the generation there was generation of seers, meaning people who engaged in immorality. So Gemara says, maybe it means that they were actually prophets. Because the prophet is called a chayza. So Gemara says, why does the verse indicate that they're looking at things in hevel with futility, with futile eyesight? What does that indicate? It means that there was the eyesight of which we speak was a superficial viewing of things, which indicates that there was a generation of adultery. This is the verse states, the story of Rus happened at the time of the judges. What does that mean? What is shveit hashoftim? The judges judging. Presumably, if they were judges, they were judging. Why does it indicate that the judges were judging? So Gemara says because that generation was not a good generation. The generation would judge their judges. If a judge would say, pull out the splinter from between your teeth, meaning it's a nice way of saying giving somebody rebuke. So then they would talk back to the judge and they would say, take the beam out from between your eyes. The judge would say to them, Kas v'chahoya. Your money is blinding you. So he would say back, Savecha mohol b'mayim. Your wine is mixed with water. Meaning that if they would not receive rebuke from the judges. Whoever says that the central authority, the kingdom of Sheba was led by a woman, they're making a mistake. By Malchus Sheva, Malchus of the Sheva. Even though the terminology uses in the feminine, it doesn't mean in the feminine because the leader was a feminine leader, but it means referring to a kingdom in a feminine way. Okay, now we get into more of a discussion of Eiv, the story of Eiv. The sons of God, these, by the way, the sons of God are a reference to one of two things. Either they refer to B'nai HaElohim. These refer to two things. Either refers to like dignitaries, or refers to a type of angel called B'nai Elohim. Okay, so these angels gathered together, and the wicked, the Satan came along with them. God says to Satan, where are you coming from? And Satan responds, Amar Lafanov, he says like this, Rabbeinu Shalom, Master of the universe. Shatati b'chol ha'olam kulay v'lematzasi ne'aman ka'avdecha Avram. She'amar laikum mishalach ba'aretz la'arkol l'rach v'kelchat nena. I checked out the whole universe, and I have not found someone more reliable than Avraham, Abraham. Even though you promised Avraham Avinu the entire Israel, when it came time to bury Sarimena, when he couldn't find a place, he didn't think twice. So it's a little bit odd, right? God promises you the whole country, and he can't even give you, a couple of square feet to bury your dead. And Avraham Avinu didn't think twice about what God's intentions were. So God says to Satan, have you looked at my slave and my servant Eiv, Job, because nobody's like him in the land. The verses speak of Eiv more highly than they speak of Abraham. The ilu ba'Avraham, by Avraham ksev ki ati dati ki yarei Elohim ato. It says after Avraham Avinu brings Yitzchak as a sacrifice, the Akedah, it says, I know that you fear God. Just one compliment. It's the only compliment he gets. What does the verse say about Eiv? Ish Tom, a man who was faithful to God. V'yashar, he was straight. Yerei one who feared God. V'sar meira, and he avoided evil. Much more compliments. My v'sar meira. What does it mean he avoided evil? Omer Bar Shmuel. Eiv v'atram b'mayne ha'haya. Eiv gave away his money. Min hagar shalaylam noisin chatzi put l'chanvini. Okay, basically, if somebody hires a worker for a small coin and he doesn't have a small coin, they go to a money changer together, and the money changer the money changer at the grocery store gives the worker half the coin, plus it gives half the coin of groceries to the owner. Eiv would give up the whole coin. See, he would go beyond what he was required to. Is it for no reason that Yoav fears God? You've given him a great amount of wealth, and treasure, and of course he's faithful. What does it mean when Satan said you blessed his hands? Anybody who do business with Eiv, that money would find blessing. So you can imagine everybody was desperate to do business with him. Okay, Umayu Mikneo Parts, and his cattle did very well. They broke, not only did they do well, they broke the rules of the world. The normal way of the world is that wolves kill the goats. The goats would kill the wolves. So Satan suggests to God to go ahead and bring the tragedy to Eiv. Strike all the things that are owed to him. Let's see if he still blesses you. You can do whatever you want to his stuff, you can't touch him. And that's exactly what happened. His kids were eating and drinking wine. A messenger comes to job. The bakar, the cattle, the oxen were plowing the field. Okay, and the next, so it says the cattle were plowing and the female donkeys were eating after them. What does that mean? What?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Oh, guess what? Listen to this one. He had a blessing just like the world to come. Meaning what happened was the cattle would plow the field, drop the seeds, sow it, and the food would grow immediately. So the female donkeys would chase the plows to eat. Okay, basically they started confiscating the stuff belonging to Eiv. This one was talking. The next one came. And the wind blew and knocked down the house. And he lost some of his kids. He tore his clothing. He shaved his hair. And he said, I was born naked, I'll come back naked, meaning without anything, even though Eiv was fabulously wealthy and had a beautiful family. Okay, he was willing to give it up. Hashem dasan v'Hashem lokach. Hashem gave it all to me, and he recognizes that Hashem lokach, Hashem took everything. God's name should be blessed. Eiv did not turn his back on God and did not blaspheme God. Okay, sure enough, it was not enough to satisfy Satan. So Satan comes back and he's not impressed. He's still not impressed. And Satan is there with them. The angels and Satan come together. He says, Master of the universe, he says, I still haven't found anybody. So they have this meeting, Satan and the angels, and Satan says, I still haven't found anybody as reliable as Abraham. You gave him the whole land. His wife dies, wants the couple square feet to bury his wife, can't find it, doesn't think twice of you. Have you looked at Eve? You're giving him such a hard time. You're throwing all these tragedies at him, and yet he's still faithful to me. If not for the fact that the verse states it, it would be impossible to say it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. The problem here is that it seems though as if God is one that's amenable to outside influence. It's sort of the Satan and God seem to have a conversation, which obviously cannot happen. It can't be that Satan had an idea that God didn't think of. Okay. The idea that God could change his mind is impossible. Right. So he's immortal in the sense that he can change his mind, which obviously can't happen. The general perspective here is when we say God changes his mind, it's not that God changes his mind, it's that we change who we are. Okay. But it does appear that God is sort of engaging in conversation with Satan. Tana, we learned, okay, what about Satan? He comes down and he bends our ways. Then he goes up to God and gets him angry. He takes permission and he kills. Meaning the Satan is both the cause of our problems and he's the executor of the judgment. A person will give anything he owns for his own soul. Instead of preventing me from attacking Eiv, allow me to attack him himself. Let's see if he turns against you. So God grants the wish of Satan. You have to keep him alive. You can touch him, but you can't kill him. He strikes Eiv. He afflicts him with blisters. He starts trying to attack Eiv's body. Satan was in more pain afflicting Eiv than Job was in pain being afflicted. Why is this? Imagine a servant gets a command, break the barrel, but make sure nothing leaks. It's a very, very difficult task. And that was basically the task of Satan. Rish Lakish says it out. Who's Satan? He's Satan. He's the one that seduces man to sin. Hu Yetzirah? He's the man. So Satan is the one who has the idea to get us to sin. Yetzirah is the one who convinces us to sin. Hu Malach HaMavis? He's the angel of death that comes, exacts retribution. Hu Satan the Siva Yetzir Satan Meis Pnei Hashem. Satan comes and has this conversation with God. Yetzirah Ksiv Hasam Rak Halayim. We describe the angel of evil by calling him Rak Ra, only evil. When God talks to Satan, he says Rak, only. The same word. It indicates us it's the same entity, same being. He is the angel of death. God tells him, make sure not to keep him alive. Meaning that if Satan wanted to kill him, he could have killed him. Right? That's why God has to warn Satan not to kill him. That clearly indicates that Satan is the executioner. Amr Levi, Satan Upnina L'Shem Shemayim Nischaven. The Satan and Penina, we'll talk about that in a moment. They both had in mind L'Shem Shemayim, for the honor of God. Right? So here Satan's coming around, seemingly enjoying afflicting Eiv. Again, Eiv, remember, is a great man, right? He's totally loyal to God, totally faithful to God. He's blessed with an unbelievable amount of blessings. And Satan is out to wreck his life. And and he thinks he's doing it for the honor of God. He thinks he's protecting the honor of Avram, of Abraham. And then we have Penina. Okay, who was Penina? Penina was the other wife of Elkanah. She was a co-wife with Chana, the mother of Shmuel. So recall at the beginning of the book of Shmuel, Elkanah has two wives. One of them is childless, one of them has children. Right. And Penina is always the one. Penina, okay, we'll get to it in a moment. Okay. Satan, Satan, the Chazia, even the Chazia, Baruch Hu, did not they die, they basi Yev, Amar Chas, V'shalom, Min Shilei L'Rachmanusei, the Avram. As soon as he saw that God likes Eiv, he was concerned that God would favor Job over Avram. So therefore, he felt the need to subjugate Eiv to defend the honor of Avram. Penina, okay, Penina would constantly tease Chana to get her to pray to God more. So she caused Chana a tremendous amount of suffering by taunting her with the fact that she was childless. But the purpose of it was that she should pray to God to have children. Rabbi Yaakov taught this in Papunaya, the name of a city. Also, Satan Nashki Lakari. Okay, yeah. So when Rabbi Yaakov said over the story that the Satan had in mind to defend the honor of Avram, Satan himself came down and kissed Ravach's foot. Okay, what does that mean with saying kisses your foot? I don't know. Okay. Still, despite Eiv being afflicted, he did not sin with his lips. There's a caveat, right? That's a big qualifier. With his lips, he did not utter a word of blasphemy against God, but with his heart he sinned. My kamar, what did he say? Eretz nitna biyad resha, famous quote, the world is in the hands of the evil. The face of its judge is covered. If he's not here, where is he? Okay, so Rava says, so Rava takes a very negative verse of this word, of this verse. He says, Eiv wanted to flip over the plate. That is a euphemism for blasphemy, heresy. Abaya says, no. Eiv wasn't talking about God, meaning that sort of God has abandoned the world. Rather, the Satan is trying to flip over the world. Satan is evil. Not that it was referring, not that this verse is a reference to God. Kitanoi, like a famous debate that we have. The world is in the hands of the wicked. Rabbi Eliezer says, Eiv wanted to flip over the plate. Eiv was speaking of Satan flipping over the plate. Satan is a blasphemer, but not that Eiv was blaspheming God. On the will of God, I will not be wicked. Nobody can save themselves from God. Rava says, Eiv was attempting here to remove the entire world from judgment. Amr Lefonov, he said, Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the universe, Baras Ashar, Parsisais of Sedukais, Baras Chamor, Parsais of Klutais. You created an ox, its hooves are split. You created a donkey, its hooves are together. It's one hoof, and therefore it's not kosher. Baras Gan Eden, Baras Gehenim, you created paradise, you created hell. Baras Tzadikim, Baras Rasham, you created righteous and created wicked. Mima Akav Ayadecha. Who exactly can stop you from this is how sort of the stars were aligned, and the wicked end up in paradise, and the I'm sorry, the wicked end up in hell, and the righteous end up in paradise. Maya Hadrolei Chavre. What do his friends respond to Yev? Af at the tofer yira v'tigra sicha lifnei kel. You're erasing, you're untying fear. V'tigra sicha lifnei kel. You're minimizing the speech before God. What does that mean? It's true. It's true that God created a wicked, evil inclination. However, Borloi Torah Tavlin, he's created Torah, which is an antidote to the Yetzer Hara. So therefore, it is possible for one to escape the clutches of the Yetzer Hara, and therefore, that person would go to heaven, to Gan Eden. Dorish Rava taught, this is the verse states, Birchas Ovid Alai. Belev Almona Aranin. I had the blessing of Ovid, of somebody who lost something, and the heart of a widow I've made joyous. What does this mean? Berachas Ovid Aranin, the blessing of a lost I've given. Allah Tava should come on me. He would take property from orphans, he'd improve the property and give it back to them. Belev Almona Aranin. The Kollel have ik almono, do they have an asfila, have also shadish meiluye, have also an asfila. This is an old trick in the books. Whenever there was, when there was a widow, and people would not, she wasn't people's first choice. So two versions here. Either either would say that widow was his relative. So right, people always want to marry into a prestigious family, so she become more attractive, or he sort of talk about marrying her, and then people think, oh, if Job is going to marry her, there must be something special, and then they'd look into her more. Okay, yeah. Apparently, this is an old shtick. If you know a guy who dates a pretty woman will have a better success with other women. So there's an old trick to hire one of these women to go to a bar. Then they date someone else. Okay. Yeah. Loy shakal yishkal ka say kasi v'husi b'meznaim. So a second here. Okay. If Eov says, would it be that my anger would be weighed and put on a scale my experience? Okay, this is what's he saying here? This is already where Eov is alluding to the fact that God is unfairly punishing him. Rava says, Afra lepume de Eov, put earth on the mouth of Eov, punish him for his speech. Chavrusa klab Ishmael. He's trying to sort of act as if he's equivalent to God, as if it's up to Eov to judge whether God's decision was righteous and just. Is there Eov says to God, is there an intermediate arbiter that can determine whether your decisions are fair? Amar Rav, so Rav says again, Afar lepumi de Eov, mouth on his earth on his mouth. This is a subtle rebuke to God. It's basically saying that there's nobody neutral, so God always wins. But would there be someone neutral who can determine God's actions? Then Eov would not have been so severely afflicted. Is there a servant that rebukes his master? I've put a covenant to my eyes so that I don't. What is there a need for me to look at a virgin? Okay, what is this a reference to? This is less complimentary to Eov than he thought it was. Let's explain. Okay. Remember, Eov here is suffering these afflictions to compare him to Avraham Avinu. So now the reference here is a reference to the degree or the length in which Eov and Avraham Avinu took to stay away from araya, stay away from inappropriate sexual conduct. Okay, so let's explain. Eov says, I've created a covenant with my eyes. Umaz bain al basula. Why would I look at a virgin? Meaning, Eov did not look at women, period. He never looked at any woman. Why? Because he made a covenant with his eyes to only look at his wife. So the only one he looked at was his wife. However, Eov did not look at another woman. However, Avram Avinu did not even look at Sarah. The Chsiv, there states, it's only now that I noticed that you're exceedingly beautiful. Avram, because what happened was they were traveling to Egypt and they passed by a puddle, and Avram Avinu saw Sarah's reflection in the puddle. So then he realized that there's going to be a problem here if they go down to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was the kingdom of immorality, of sexual hedonism, and he immediately realized that he would have an issue with Parai. Parai would confiscate her to be the wife of the king. Okay, just one more side point, of course, that since Talmudical times, at least, one is at least obligated to look at his wife before he marries her. It's an obligation. That's an obligation of the Gemara and Kedushin to make sure that the woman who you're marrying is attractive in your eyes, so that you don't have any issues going down the road at a later point in time. Okay. Initially, Avram did not know how Sarah looked. The wind, the clouds come and pass. So too, someone who descends to Sha'ol, loyala, he won't be able to get up again. Amar Rava says, Mikan shekafar Eov b'tchiyas hamesim. Eov here is beginning to deny the resurrection. Asher b'sa'ora yishufeni, with a tempest, he shattered me. And he increased my wounds needlessly. Amar Rabba, Eov b'sara charaf u'b'sara heshivua. He blasphemed God with sa'ara, with a tempest, and God's response was with a tempest. B'sara charaf, the asher b'sa'ara yishufeni. He shattered me with a tempest. Amar lefanav rebbeinu shalom. Shema ruach sa'ara over lefanecha v'neschal v'cha ben Eov le'Eov. Okay, so this is a long rebuke. Hopefully we'll have enough time to finish it. Basically, Eov here says, one second, maybe God, you afflicted me with the tempest, meaning when a tempest comes, it doesn't necessarily differentiate between the victims. It strikes everybody. So he says to God, maybe you struck me with the tempest, meaning you confused me with somebody else who has the same name. Okay, so now God goes through a number of miracles of creation. Some of these we can relate to, some of these it's not exactly clear if we have these things today. And basically God says, look, I don't confuse any of these things. Do you think I've confused two Eivs? Okay, what are these fine things that God knows? God responds to him with a tempest. God responds to Eiv. He tells him, strengthen yourself with a man. I'll ask you and you'll let me know. God says to him, I've created many hearers. Each hair has its own follicle, its own like pit where it grows. To make sure that two hairs don't grow out of the same follicle. Because if two hairs grew out of the same follicle, it would damage a person's eyesight. I haven't confused the follicles of hair. Do you think I would confuse two Eivs? Who would separate the downpour into grooves? What does that mean? I created many drops of rain in the clouds. Every drop of rain. I created a box for it, so that two drops of rain don't come down at the same time. Imagine if the rain came down like a fire hose. It would destroy the land. And it would not grow fruits. Between two drops of rain, I haven't been confused. Do you think I've been confused between two Eivs? My mash with the high ta'ala listen to tfus. How do we know that ta'ala, a groove, is like a tfus, like a frame? Rabbi Shila, the Siv, is the verse states, "Vayas ta'ola kebeisasayim zera." This is when Eliyahu Hanavi makes a altar on top of Mount Carmel, at the showdown between him and the false angels of the Baal, the kingdom of Achav, he creates a ta'olah. He creates a groove that was enough to hold Kebes Asayim Zera. It was a very large groove. He filled it with water and it all burnt. Okay, but regardless, ta'ala here is a groove. It's a furrow. So what it means is that God creates furrows between the drops of rain so that no two touch each other. Derech lechaziz kolos harbe. What's chaziz here? Path. 1 second. I'm sorry. A path to thunder. A path to the there's a path to the blasts of thunder. Harbe kolos barasi b'oven. I created many sounds in the clouds. V'kol kol v'kol barasi shvil b'fnei atzmai. Each thunder has its own pathway. So that two thunders don't come out of the same pathway. The sound would be too enormous. Between two different sounds, I haven't gotten confused. Do you think I got confused between two people whose name would be Eov? Do you know the time of the birth of the goats, the mountain goats? Are you aware of the cavity of the ayolos, of the rams, of the what type of animals are ram? Of the sheep? Tishmar, I watch it. Ayol is a gazelle. It's a gazelle. A gazelle. The hollowness of a gazelle I watch. What does that mean? Ya'alazu. This mountain goat, the one that hangs around the rocks, Achzoris albanah. She is brutal to her children. When she tries to give birth, she climbs to the top of the mountain, so that her child falls down the mountain and dies. I prepare for it a vulture that receives the child in its wings, and places the child in front of her. And obviously, she won't kill her own child. Well, she'll cause the child to die, but she won't kill it. If the vulture comes at the wrong time, then it dies immediately. Do you think if I don't confuse the right second, won't you think that I won't confuse the right Eov? Okay, the hollowness of the gazelle I watch. What does that mean? Ayolazu, this gazelle, rechmotzar. Its uterus is very narrow. Its vaginal canal is very narrow. I prepare for this darken, it's like a snake. Snake. A snake. And what does the snake do? It bites her on the uterus. And she's able to give birth, and the child is healthy. If the snake comes at the wrong moment, beyond Mesa, the child will die. Ben regular in its chalafli, ben Eov. Ben Eov Nischalafli. Do you think I got confused between different Eovs? Okay. Well, okay, let's just finish one line here. The Gemara says, Eov was not speaking with wisdom, and his words were not thought through. Omar Rav is taught, Mikan she'ein adam nitfas b'shas tzarei. One can't be upset at somebody for what they say at the time that they are in a period of tragedy. It's very easy when a person is going through tragedy for him to speak harshly, and a person is not punished for speaking harshly at the time of tragedy. Okay, continuing discussion of Eov tomorrow.